Ethan Cole had never planned to become a hero. He was just a man trying to get by, working long hours on a space station far from Earth. Nexus Station floated in the darkness between stars. A massive structure where aliens from many worlds came to trade and do business. Ethan worked as a cargo handler, moving boxes and crates from one ship to another. It was hard work, but it paid enough to keep him fed and give him a small room to sleep in. He was 32 years old and had left Earth 5 years ago. His marriage had fallen apart. His wife had said he was too closed off, too afraid to let anyone in. Maybe she was right. After the divorce, Ethan sold everything he owned and bought a one-way ticket to the frontier of space. He thought that maybe out here, among the stars, he could start fresh. But starting fresh turned out to be just as lonely as his old life. Nexus Station was home to many alien species. Some were friendly, some were not. The Valorians were among the most impressive. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with blue skin that shimmered like water under light. They had 4 arms, each one strong enough to crush metal. Their eyes were golden and bright, and their culture was built around family and honor. Most humans kept their distance from Valorians. They were warriors, proud and fierce, and did not tolerate disrespect. Then there were the Kreth. They were reptilian creatures with gray scales and sharp claws. They were known throughout the station as scavengers and criminals. They took what they wanted and hurt anyone who got in their way. Station security tried to keep them in check, but the Kreth were clever and cruel. They knew how to avoid getting caught. Ethan had learned to avoid trouble on Nexus Station. He kept his head down, did his job, and went home. He did not make friends. He did not make enemies. He was invisible, and that was how he liked it. But one evening, everything changed. Ethan had just finished a long shift. His back ached, and his hands were sore. He was walking through the lower market district, a maze of narrow streets and dim lights where the poorest residents lived. It was not a safe place after dark, but it was the shortest route to his room. He heard the sounds before he saw anything. Harsh laughter, a high-pitched cry, the unmistakable noise of someone in trouble. Ethan stopped. His first thought was to keep walking. Whatever was happening, it was not his problem. Getting involved in other people's business on Nexus Station was a good way to end up dead. But then he heard the cry again. It was the voice of a child. Something in Ethan's chest tightened. He turned toward the sound and walked into a narrow alley between 2 old buildings. The walls were stained and the floor was covered in garbage. At the end of the alley, he saw them. 4 Kreth traders stood in a half circle, blocking the way. In the corner, pressed against the wall, was a small figure. A child. She had blue skin and golden eyes. A Valorian girl, no more than 6 years old in human terms. She was shaking with fear, tears running down her face. The largest Kreth was speaking in a low, threatening voice. He was demanding payment. The child had nothing to give. She was alone, lost, and terrified. Ethan felt his heart pounding. He knew he should walk away. He was one human against 4 armed Kreth. He had no weapons. He had no training. If he stepped in, they would hurt him. They might even kill him, but the child looked at him. Her golden eyes met his, filled with desperate hope. In that moment, Ethan saw something that broke through all his walls. He saw innocence. He saw fear. He saw a little girl who needed someone to stand up for her. He stepped forward into the alley. The Kreth turned to look at him. The largest one tilted his head, his yellow eyes narrowing with amusement. "Walk away, human," the Kreth said. His voice was like gravel scraping against stone. "This does not concern you." Ethan's mouth was dry. His legs felt weak. Every part of him screamed to run. But he did not move. "Leave her alone," he said. His voice came out steadier than he expected. The Kreth laughed. All four of them found this very funny. A soft, weak human telling them what to do. It was a joke to them. "You are brave," the large Kreth said. "Brave and stupid. Do you know what we do to humans who interfere with our business?" Ethan did not answer. He walked forward until he stood between the Kreth and the child. He could feel the little girl behind him, could hear her quiet sobs. He spread his arms slightly, making himself a barrier. I said, "Leave her alone." The laughter stopped. The Kreth looked at each other, their amusement turning to anger. They did not like being challenged. They did not like being told what to do by a creature they considered weak and worthless. The large Kreth stepped closer. He was a full head taller than Ethan, and his claws were long and sharp. His breath smelled like rotting meat. "You want to be a hero, human?" he asked softly. "Then you will die like one." Ethan knew what was coming. He braced himself, keeping his body between the Kreth and the child. He did not raise his fists. He did not try to fight. He simply stood there, ready to take whatever they would give him. The first blow came fast. A clawed hand slammed into the side of his head, sending him stumbling. Pain exploded through his skull. Before he could recover, another Kreth kicked him in the ribs. He heard something crack. He fell to his knees, gasping for air. But he did not move away from the child. The Kreth circled him like predators around wounded prey. They took turns hitting him. Claws tore into his back. Fists struck his face. He tasted blood in his mouth. His vision blurred. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. Still, he did not move. Every time they knocked him down, he crawled back to his position in front of the girl. Every time they tried to reach past him, he put his body in the way. He could hear the child crying behind him. He wanted to tell her it would be okay. He wanted to tell her to run. But he could not speak. He could only endure. The beating seemed to last forever. Ethan lost track of time. He lost track of everything except one simple thought: protect the child. As long as he was breathing, they would not touch her. Finally, through the haze of pain, he heard shouting. Bright lights filled the alley. Station security had arrived. The Kreth scattered like shadows fleeing from the sun, disappearing into the maze of streets. Ethan collapsed against the cold metal wall. His body was broken. Blood soaked his clothes. Every breath felt like fire in his chest, but the child was safe. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was her face. Those golden eyes, wide with wonder and gratitude, looking at him like he was something more than just a man. Then everything went black. Ethan woke to the sound of beeping machines. His eyes opened slowly, and bright white light flooded his vision. He tried to move, but pain shot through every part of his body. He groaned and lay still, staring at the ceiling above him. He was in the medical bay of Nexus Station. The room was clean and quiet, filled with the soft hum of equipment. A thin blanket covered his body, and tubes connected his arm to bags of fluid hanging nearby. He could smell medicine in the air. A doctor appeared beside his bed. She was a Talani, a species that looked almost human except for their silver hair and pale purple skin. Her voice was calm and professional. "You are awake," she said. "That is good. We were not sure you would survive the night." Ethan tried to speak, but his throat was dry. The doctor gave him water, holding the cup to his lips. He drank slowly, feeling the cool liquid ease his pain. "What happened?" he managed to ask. "You were attacked by Kreth traders in the lower district," the doctor said. "Station security found you in an alley. You had 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, deep cuts across your back and arms, and a fractured cheekbone. You lost a lot of blood." Ethan closed his eyes. The memories came flooding back. The alley. The Kreth. The child. "The girl," he said suddenly, trying to sit up. Pain forced him back down. The little girl. Is she okay? The doctor placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. She is fine. Not a scratch on her. She refused to leave your side when security brought you in. We had to convince her to let us work on you. Relief washed over Ethan like warm water. The child was safe. That was all that mattered. She has been waiting outside, the doctor continued. She asked about you every hour. Would you like to see her? Ethan nodded weakly. The doctor left and returned a moment later with the small Valorian girl. She walked slowly toward the bed, her golden eyes fixed on Ethan. She was so small, barely reaching the edge of the bed. Her blue skin was clean now, and someone had given her fresh clothes. Anne, she said softly. She struggled with his name, her young voice unable to form the sounds correctly. Anne, okay? Ethan felt something crack inside him, something that had nothing to do with his broken ribs. He managed a small smile. I am okay, he said. Are you okay? The girl nodded. Then, without warning, she began to cry. Not the terrified sobs from the alley, but something different. Something deeper. She reached out her small hands and touched his arm, as if making sure he was real. You saved Lysa, she said between tears. The bad ones wanted to hurt Lysa, but you stopped them. You got hurt for Lysa. Lysa, that was her name. Ethan stored it in his memory like something precious. It is okay, he said gently. You are safe now. That is what matters. Lysa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Why? She asked. Why did you help Lysa? You do not know Lysa. Lysa is not your family. It was a simple question, asked with the honest curiosity of a child. Ethan thought about it for a long moment. Why had he done it? He could have walked away. He could have pretended not to see. No one would have blamed him. Because it was the right thing to do, he finally said. When someone needs help, you help them. That is what good people do. Lysa stared at him with those golden eyes. In her young mind, she was trying to understand this strange human who had suffered so much for someone he did not know. Among her people, such acts were the highest form of honor. But she had been taught that other species were different, that they cared only for themselves. This human had proven everything she knew to be wrong. The doctor gently told Lysa that Ethan needed rest. The girl did not want to leave, but she eventually agreed. Before she went, she leaned over the bed and pressed her small forehead against Ethan's hand. It was a Valorian gesture of deep respect and gratitude. Lysa will not forget, she whispered. Never, never. Then she was gone, and Ethan was alone with his pain. The days that followed were difficult. Ethan drifted in and out of sleep, his body fighting to heal. The doctors told him he was lucky to be alive. A few more minutes in that alley, and he would have died. His human body was not built to take such punishment, but Ethan did not feel lucky. He felt empty. He had spent his whole life running from connection, from caring about others. He had built walls around his heart to protect himself from pain. And yet, in one moment, all those walls had crumbled. He had risked everything for a child he had never met. He did not regret it. That was the strangest part. Despite the pain, despite the broken bones and the blood, he did not regret a single second. Lysa visited him every day. The station authorities had contacted her family, but it would take time for them to arrive. In the meantime, she had been placed in temporary care. But she always found a way to sneak into the medical bay to see Ethan. She brought him drawings she had made. Simple pictures of stars and ships and two figures holding hands, one tall and one small. She told him stories about her home, about her mother who was a great warrior, about the ship where she lived. Her English was not perfect, but Ethan understood enough. He learned that Lysa had gotten lost during a visit to the station. She had wandered away from her guardian and could not find her way back. The Creth had found her alone and seen an opportunity. "Mother will be angry," Lysa said one day, her voice small and worried. Lysa was not supposed to go alone. Lysa broke the rules. "Your mother will just be happy you are safe," Ethan assured her. Lysa shook her head. "Mother is very strict. Mother is a warrior. Warriors do not break rules." Ethan smiled despite the pain. Even warriors break rules sometimes. And even strict mothers love their children more than anything. This seemed to comfort Lysa. She smiled back at him, and Ethan felt warmth spread through his chest. As the days passed, Ethan grew stronger. He could sit up now, could eat solid food. The doctors were amazed at his recovery. They said humans were more resilient than they looked, but something else was changing too. Ethan found himself looking forward to Lysa's visits. He found himself caring about this small blue girl with her golden eyes and her broken English. For the first time in years, he did not feel alone. He knew it could not last. Lysa's family would come for her, and she would leave. He would go back to his empty room and his lonely job. Everything would return to the way it was before, but for now, in this small medical room on a space station far from Earth, Ethan Cole had found something he thought he had lost forever. He had found a reason to care, and soon, everything would change in ways he could never have imagined. Because Lysa's mother was coming, and she was not like anyone Ethan had ever met. The warrior was on her way. The warship arrived at Nexus Station like a storm coming over the horizon. It was massive, dark, and covered in weapons. The name painted on its side was in Valorian script, but everyone on the station knew what it said. Shadow of Valor. It was one of the most feared ships in the sector, commanded by a warrior whose name was spoken with respect and fear. Valara of House Kathos had come for her daughter. Word spread quickly through the station. People whispered in corridors and markets. A Valorian noble was here, a commander, a warrior who had fought in 12 battles and never lost. Everyone wondered what she would do when she found out what had happened to her child. Ethan heard the news from one of the nurses. He was sitting up in bed now, strong enough to move a little. His wounds were healing, though the scars would remain forever. When the nurse told him about the warship, he felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. He had protected a Valorian child, the child of a powerful warrior. He did not know if that was good or bad. Maybe the mother would be grateful, or maybe she would be angry that a lowly human had gotten involved in her family's business. Either way, there was nothing he could do now. He could barely walk. Running was not an option, even if he wanted to. Lysa was excited when she heard her mother was coming. She bounced around the medical bay, talking faster than Ethan could follow. But there was fear in her eyes, too. She was still worried about getting in trouble for wandering off. "Mother is strong," Lysa told Ethan. "Strongest warrior. She will not be happy that Lysa got lost. She will be happy that you are safe," Ethan said, repeating what he had told her before. "That is what matters most." But even as he said the words, he wondered if they were true. He did not know Valorian culture. He did not know how they treated their children, or how they viewed outsiders who interfered in their affairs. He would find out soon enough. The door to the medical bay opened, and Ethan felt the air change. It was like the temperature dropped several degrees. He looked up and saw her standing in the doorway. Valara was tall, even for a Valorian. She stood over 7 feet, her blue skin darker than her daughter's, almost the color of deep ocean water. She had 4 powerful arms, each one thick with muscle. Her golden eyes burned with an intensity that made Ethan's breath catch in his throat. She wore armor, black and silver, marked with symbols that he did not understand. Her face was stern, beautiful in a sharp and dangerous way. She moved like a predator, each step controlled and precise. This was not a woman who tolerated weakness. This was a warrior. Lysa ran to her mother and threw herself into those 4 arms. Valara caught her daughter and held her tight, all 4 arms wrapping around the small girl. For a moment, the stern warrior disappeared, and Ethan saw something else. He saw a mother who had been terrified of losing her child. They spoke in Valorian, too fast for Ethan to follow. Lysa was talking and crying at the same time, pointing at Ethan repeatedly. Valara listened, her golden eyes flicking to the human in the bed. Finally, Valara set her daughter down and walked toward Ethan. Each step felt heavy, final. Ethan forced himself to meet her gaze, even though every instinct told him to look away. She stopped at the edge of his bed and looked down at him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Ethan could not read her expression. He did not know if she was angry or grateful or something else entirely. Then, Valara did something that shocked him. She knelt out this towering warrior, this commander of a warship, this noble of a great house, lowered herself to one knee beside his bed. She placed her upper right hand over his heart, pressing gently against his chest. Her touch was warm, almost hot, like standing near a fire. When she spoke, her voice was deep and strong, but there was something soft beneath it. "My daughter has told me what you did," she said. Her English was accented but clear. "She told me how you stood between her and the Kreth, how you took their blows and never moved, how you protected her with your own body, even though you did not know her, even though you are human and she is Valorian, even though you had nothing to gain and everything to lose." Ethan swallowed hard. He did not know what to say. Valara continued, her golden eyes locked on his. "Among my people, there is no act more honored than protecting a child. Our children are our future, our hope, our everything. A warrior who shields a child from harm is celebrated above all others. But when an outsider, someone with no bond and no duty, chooses to suffer for a Valorian child, the debt is sacred." She paused, and Ethan saw emotion flicker across her face. Pride, gratitude, and something else he could not name. "You bled for my daughter, Ethan Cole. You stood when you could have run. You endured pain that would have broken many warriors. By the ancient laws of my people, by the oaths that have bound House Kathos for 1,000 generations, your life is now connected to mine." Ethan's heart was pounding. He did not understand what was happening. "I claim you," Valara said, her voice rising with formal weight. "Not as property, but as family. Not as servant, but as equal. From this breath until your last, you are mine, and I am yours. This is the bond of protection, the sacred tie between those who guard the innocent. Do you understand?" Ethan stared at her. His mind was spinning. He had expected anger, or perhaps a simple thank you. He had not expected this. "I do not know your customs," he said honestly. "I do not know what this means." Valara smiled slightly. It transformed her face, made her look younger and softer. "It means you are part of House Kathos now. It means you will never be alone again. It means my people will honor you as one of their own, and my enemies will fear to harm you." She leaned closer, her face inches from his. "It means, Ethan Cole, that you have earned something few humans ever receive. You have earned the eternal gratitude of a Valorian mother, and I do not give such things lightly." Lysa had crept closer during her mother's speech. Now she stood beside Valara, beaming up at Ethan with pure joy. "And his family now," she said happily. "Ethan stays with Lysa and mother forever." Ethan looked from the child to the warrior kneeling beside his bed. His old life had been empty and lonely. He had run from Earth because he could not connect with anyone. He had spent 5 years on this station, invisible and alone. And now, because he had done one good thing, everything had changed. He did not know what the future held. He did not know if he could live up to whatever Velara expected of him. But looking into those golden eyes, seeing the respect and warmth there, he knew one thing for certain. He did not want to go back to being alone. "I understand," he said quietly. "I accept." Velara nodded, satisfaction clear on her face. She rose to her feet and extended one of her hands toward him. "Then welcome to House Kathos, Ethan Cole. Your new life begins now." He reached out and took her hand. Her grip was strong but gentle, warm and steady. Behind her, Lysa cheered and clapped her hands. And somewhere deep inside Ethan, a door that had been closed for years slowly began to open. Life on the Shadow of Valor was nothing like Ethan had imagined. The warship was massive, with hundreds of crew members moving through its corridors. Everything was built for Valorians, which meant everything was too tall and too big for a human. Ethan felt like a child in a world made for giants. The first weeks were the hardest. Ethan was still healing from his injuries, and the ship's medical officer, a gruff old Valorian named Torek, kept a close eye on him. Torek did not seem to like humans very much, but he was skilled at his work. Under his care, Ethan's wounds closed and his strength slowly returned. The crew watched Ethan with curiosity and suspicion. They had heard the story of what he had done, but many did not believe it. How could a soft, small human stand against Forkreth? How could such a weak creature endure such a beating and survive? Some thought Velara had made a mistake in claiming him. Others whispered that the commander had gone soft. Ethan ignored the whispers. He had faced worse on Earth, and he had faced worse in that alley. A few suspicious looks did not bother him. What did bother him was feeling useless. On Nexus Station, he had worked hard every day. He had purpose, even if it was just moving boxes. Here on the ship, he had nothing to do. Velara had given him quarters near her own, a small room that was still twice the size of his old place. Lysa visited him constantly, bringing games and stories and endless questions about humans. But Ethan was restless. He needed to earn his place. One morning, he found Velara in the training hall. She was practicing with a curved blade, moving through forms with deadly grace. Her forearms allowed her to wield two weapons while blocking with the others. It was like watching a dance, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Ethan waited until she finished before speaking. "I want to help," he said. "I want to be useful. Tell me what I can do." Velara lowered her blade and studied him. She was dressed in simple training clothes, her dark blue skin glistening with sweat. Even without her armor, she looked powerful. "You are still healing," she said. "I am healed enough. I cannot just sit in my room while everyone else works. I need purpose." Something flickered in Velara's golden eyes. Approval, perhaps. She nodded slowly. "Very well. What skills do you have?" Ethan thought about it. "I was a cargo handler. I know how to organize supplies, track inventory, manage logistics. I am not a fighter, but I can work." "Those are useful skills," Velara admitted. "Our supply officer has been complaining about the state of the cargo hold for months. Perhaps you can bring some order to the chaos." And so Ethan found his place. He spent his days in the cargo hold, organizing crates and updating inventory lists. The work was familiar and satisfying. The Valorian crew members who worked with him were surprised by his efficiency. Humans, they learned, were very good at keeping track of details. Slowly, the suspicious looks began to fade. The crew saw Ethan working hard, saw him never complaining, saw him treating everyone with respect. They began to nod at him in the corridors, then to greet him by name, then to share meals with him. In the common hall, Ethan was becoming part of the crew, but it was his evenings that he treasured most. After his work was done, he would spend time with Lysa and Velara in their family quarters. Lysa would show him her schoolwork and tell him about her day. She was learning history and mathematics and the warrior traditions of her people. Ethan helped her with her English, which was improving every day. Valara was often busy with her duties as commander, but she made time for family dinners. At first, the meals were awkward. Ethan did not know what to say, and Valara was not skilled at casual conversation. But Lysa filled the silence with her chatter, and gradually, the adults learned to talk to each other. Ethan discovered that Valara was a widow. Her bonded mate, Lysa's father, had been killed in battle 3 years ago. She did not speak of him often, but when she did, her voice grew soft with old pain. He was a good warrior, she said one evening after Lysa had gone to bed. Strong and brave and kind. Lysa has his eyes. I am sorry, Ethan said. It seemed like a weak thing to say, but he meant it. Valara shook her head. He died with honor, protecting our people. That is the best death a Valorian can ask for. She paused, looking at Ethan with something like wonder. You remind me of him sometimes. Not in appearance, but in spirit. He too would have stood in front of those Kreth without hesitation. Ethan did not know how to respond to that. It was perhaps the highest compliment she could give Dodd. As the weeks turned into months, Ethan and Valara grew closer. She taught him about Valorian culture, about their history and beliefs. She showed him how to hold a blade, though his human arms could not match her strength or speed. She laughed at his attempts to cook Valorian food, which always turned out wrong, and then surprised him by asking to try human recipes. The first time, Ethan made coffee for her. She nearly spit it out. This is what humans drink for pleasure? She demanded, her face twisted in disgust. Ethan laughed so hard his healing ribs ached. It is an acquired taste. I will never acquire it, Valara declared. But the next morning, he found her in the kitchen, trying to make a cup on her own. She caught him watching and tried to look dignified. I am studying human customs, she said stiffly. It is important to understand your culture. Ethan just smiled. One night, Lysa had a nightmare. Ethan heard her crying through the thin walls and went to check on her. He found her sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face. The bad ones came back, she whispered. They wanted to hurt me. And Eden was not there. Ethan sat beside her and took her small hand in his. I am here now, he said gently. I will always be here. No one is going to hurt you. Lysa looked at him with those golden eyes, so like her mother's. Promise? I promise. She crawled into his lap and wrapped her small arms around him, burying her face against his chest. Ethan held her, feeling her body shake with leftover fear. He stroked her hair and hummed a song his own mother had sung to him long ago, back on Earth, in a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. When Valara found them an hour later, Lysa was fast asleep, and Ethan was dozing in the chair beside her bed. Still holding her hand, Valara stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching them. Something in her expression shifted, became softer and more vulnerable than Ethan had ever seen. She did not say anything. She simply walked over, adjusted the blanket over her daughter, and placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. Thank you, she said quietly, for being here, for being what we needed. Ethan looked up at her, at this fierce warrior who had claimed him as family, and realized something that surprised him. He was happy. For the first time in years, perhaps for the first time in his life, he was truly happy. Thank you for letting me stay, he said. Valara's hand tightened on his shoulder. In the dim light of Lysa's room, her golden eyes gleamed with emotion. You have more than earned your place, she said. Never doubt that. And Ethan did not. Not anymore. A year passed on the Shadow of Valor, and Ethan Cole was no longer the broken man who had stumbled into an alley to save a child. He had changed in ways both small and large, shaped by the family he had found among the stars. His body bore the marks of that night. The scars on his back and arms had faded to thin white lines, but they would never disappear completely. The Valorian crew treated those scars with respect. In their culture, scars earned in protection of the innocent were marks of the highest honor. When new crew members joined the ship, they were told the story of the human who had nearly died. To save the commander's daughter, Ethan had become something of a legend. He still worked in the cargo hold, but his duties had expanded. Valara had made him the official supply coordinator for the ship, a position of real responsibility. He managed inventory, planned resupply missions, and made sure every crew member had what they needed. The work suited him. He was good at details, at organization, at solving problems that others overlooked. But his true role on the ship went beyond cargo and supplies. He had become family. Lysa was growing fast, as Valorian children did. At 7 years old now, she was already learning the basics of combat, training with small weapons under her mother's careful eye. She still called him Ethan, though she could pronounce his name properly now. It had become a term of affection, a private joke between them. She no longer had nightmares about the alley. When Ethan asked her about it once, she had shrugged and smiled. "Why would I have bad dreams?" She said, "You are here. Nothing bad can happen when you are here." The trust in her voice made Ethan's heart ache with a fierce protective love he had never expected to feel. Valara had changed too, though the changes were subtle. She smiled more often now. She laughed at Ethan's bad jokes. She had learned to drink coffee, though she insisted she still hated it. And sometimes, in quiet moments when they were alone, she let her guard down and showed him the woman beneath the warrior. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. About their past, their hopes, their fears. Valara told him about growing up in House Kathos, about the pressure to be perfect, about the grief of losing her mate. Ethan told her about Earth, about his failed marriage, about the emptiness that had driven him to the stars. "I was running away," he admitted one night as they sat together on the observation deck, watching the stars drift by. "I thought if I went far enough, I could leave my problems behind. But you cannot run from yourself." Valara was quiet for a moment. "No," she agreed. "But you can change yourself. You can become someone new." She turned to look at him, her golden eyes soft. "The man you were before that alley is not the man you are now. That man was lost and empty. This man has purpose. This man has family. This man has you," Ethan said quietly. The words hung in the air between them. Ethan had not planned to say them. They had simply come out, honest and raw. Valara did not look away. "Yes," she said. "You do." She reached out with one of her hands and took his. Her skin was warm, almost hot, the way it always was. Ethan had grown used to it, had come to find comfort in that warmth. "I did not expect this," Valara continued. "When I claimed you, I thought I was honoring a debt, repaying your sacrifice. I did not expect to—" She trailed off, searching for words. "To care," Ethan finished for her. Valara nodded. "Valorians do not form bonds lightly. When my mate died, I thought that part of my life was over. I thought I would focus on my duty and my daughter and nothing else. But you—" She shook her head, a small smile playing at her lips. "You are very difficult to ignore, Ethan Cole." Ethan laughed softly. "I have been told that before. Usually not as a compliment." "It is a compliment," Valara said firmly. "You have brought light to this ship. You have brought joy to my daughter. And you have brought something to me that I thought I had lost forever." "What is that?" Valara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Hope." They sat together in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, watching the stars. Ethan felt peace settle over him like a warm blanket. All his life, he had searched for a place to belong. He had looked for it in marriage, in work, in the endless corridors of Nexus Station. He had never found it, and yet here, on a warship full of alien warriors, light years from Earth, he had finally found home. The months continued to pass. Ethan's place in House Kados became official when Valara presented him to her extended family at a gathering on their homeworld. Some of the older Valorians were skeptical, but when Valara told the full story of what Ethan had done, when she showed them the scars he still carried, their skepticism turned to respect. Ethan Cole was accepted into one of the most powerful houses in Valorian society. A human, small and soft, had earned a place among warriors thought it was unheard of. It was unprecedented. And for the Valorians, who had always dismissed humans as weak, it was a revelation. "Perhaps we have misjudged your species," one elder told Ethan at the gathering. "You are not strong as we are strong. But there is a different kind of strength in you. A strength that does not require muscle or weapons. A strength of the heart." Ethan bowed his head in respect. "I am honored by your words." The elder placed a wrinkled hand on Ethan's shoulder. "No, we are honored by your example." Later that night, back on the Shadow of Valor, Ethan stood alone on the observation deck. The stars spread out before him, endless and beautiful. He thought about how far he had come from that cargo handler's job on Nexus Station. He thought about the alley, the beating, the child he had saved. He thought about everything he had gained by making one simple choice to do the right thing. The door opened behind him, and he did not need to turn to know who it was. He felt Valara's presence like warmth at his back, steady and strong. She came to stand beside him, all four arms crossed over her chest. "Do you ever regret it?" She asked. It was the same question she had asked months ago, and Ethan gave the same answer. "No," he said. "Never." Valara smiled, that rare and precious expression that Ethan had come to treasure. "Good," she said, "because you are mine, Ethan Cole, and I do not intend to let you go." She uncrossed her arms and wrapped them around him, all four, pulling him close against her. Ethan leaned into the embrace, feeling her heartbeat against his back, strong and steady as a drum. "Forever?" he asked softly. "Forever," she confirmed. And standing there, wrapped in the arms of a warrior, surrounded by stars, Ethan Cole finally understood what he had been searching for all along. Not a place, not a purpose, not a job or a title or a destination. He had been searching for family, for love, for someone who would claim him not for what he could give, but for who he was. And he had found it in the most unexpected place, in the most unexpected way, with the most unexpected people. He had found it by choosing to be brave when bravery seemed impossible, by choosing to protect the child he did not know, by choosing to stand when every part of him screamed to run. In the end, that was what made him human. Not his weaknesses, but his choices. Not his fragility, but his courage. And that, Ethan realized, was something worth being proud of. The stars continued to drift past the observation window, and Ethan Cole held his new family close. Finally home at last.